Africa's complex response and enduring impact of the Russia-Ukraine war. The eruption of the Russia-Ukraine war in February 2022 sent shockwaves across the globe, fracturing established alliances and forcing nations to confront a stark geopolitical reality. For Africa, a continent grappling with its own unique set of challenges, the conflict presented a complex and multifaceted dilemma. The continent's response, characterized by a spectrum of positions from condemnation to neutrality and even tacit support, reflects the intricate tapestry of its historical ties, economic dependencies, and evolving diplomatic strategies. The war's repercussions, ranging from crippling food insecurity to heightened geopolitical maneuvering, are reshaping Africa's trajectory in profound and lasting ways. 1. A continent divided. The spectrum of African positions. The war's impact on Africa is vividly illustrated by the voting patterns within the United Nations General Assembly. These votes serve as a barometer of the continent's diverse and often conflicting perspectives. The United Nations General Assembly votes, a microcosm of African divergence. March 2022, United Nations General Assembly Resolution AS11/1. This initial resolution condemning Russia's invasion revealed a significant split. While 28 nations, including Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, and Rwanda, voted in favor, reflecting a stance aligned with international law and territorial integrity, 17 countries, notably South Africa, Algeria, Uganda, and Senegal, abstained, signaling a desire to maintain neutrality or avoid direct confrontation. 8 nations were absent, and Eritrea stood alone in opposition. October 2022, United Nations General Assembly Resolution AS11 quarters. The resolution condemning Russia's annexation of Ukrainian territories saw a similar pattern of division, with abstentions remaining prominent. February 2023, United Nations General Assembly Resolution AS-11 the reaffirmation of support for Ukraine's sovereignty continued to elicit a mixed response, with many African nations opting for abstention or absence. The tapestry of motivations, unraveling the reasons behind the positions. Historical echoes, the legacy of the Cold War, the enduring influence of the Soviet Union during the Cold War plays a crucial role. Nations like South Africa, Algeria, Mozambique, and Angola, which received substantial support from the Soviet Union during their liberation struggles, maintain historical ties with Russia. This legacy often translates into a reluctance to openly criticize Moscow. Economic imperatives, a web of dependencies. Economic interests are paramount in shaping African nations' responses. Russia's role as a major supplier of energy, military equipment, and agricultural commodities creates significant dependencies. Egypt, Sudan, and South Africa, for example, have substantial trade relations with Russia. Algeria is a major buyer of Russian weaponry. The doctrine of non-alignment, navigating a multipolar world. Many African nations, echoing the principles of the non-aligned movement, prioritize neutrality and advocate for diplomatic solutions. They view the conflict as a proxy war between global superpowers and seek to avoid entanglement. Uganda and Ethiopia exemplify this stance. Western alliances, balancing partnerships, nations with close ties to the United States and the European Union, such as Kenya, Ghana, and Nigeria, have tended to align more closely with the Western position, reflecting their economic and diplomatic partnerships. 2. The war's multifaceted impact on Africa, a continent under pressure. The Russia-Ukraine war has unleashed a cascade of consequences that are deeply affecting Africa's economic, political, and security landscape. The scourge of food insecurity, a looming crisis. The disruption of wheat and fertilizer supplies from Russia and Ukraine, major exporters, has triggered a severe food security crisis. Countries heavily reliant on these imports, like Egypt, Sudan, and Kenya, have experienced soaring bread prices and widespread hunger. The shortage of fertilizers has severely impacted agricultural production, leading to reduced crop yields and threatening food security across the continent. The energy crunch, fueling economic instability. The surge in global fuel prices, driven by sanctions on Russian oil, has placed immense pressure on African economies, which are largely dependent on imported petroleum. Increased transportation and production costs have exacerbated economic challenges in countries like Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa. While oil-producing nations initially saw gains, global market instability has caused economic uncertainty. Geopolitical reshuffling, The scramble for influence. Russia has intensified its engagement in Africa, offering military and diplomatic support to governments in Mali, the Central African Republic, CAR, and Sudan through the Wagner Group, a Russian paramilitary organization. This has led to concerns about rising Russian influence and its impact on regional stability. The West has responded by increasing its diplomatic efforts to counter Russian influence, offering aid and trade deals to African nations. This has intensified the geopolitical competition on the continent. The security nexus, amplifying existing challenges. Russia's continued arms exports to African nations, including Algeria, Egypt, and Uganda, contribute to regional militarization. The economic instability caused by the war has exacerbated existing security challenges, particularly in the Sahel region, where extremist groups exploit the crisis. 3. Navigating the future. Africa's strategic choices. In the face of these challenges, African nations must chart a strategic course that safeguards their interests and promotes stability. Maintaining strategic autonomy. The path of neutrality. Many countries will likely continue to pursue a non-aligned foreign policy, prioritizing diplomatic solutions and avoiding entanglement in geopolitical rivalries. Building resilience, fostering economic independence. The crisis has underscored the importance of food security and energy diversification. Investments in local agricultural production and renewable energy sources are crucial for reducing dependence on external actors. Strategic partnerships, navigating a multipolar world. African nations must carefully manage their relationships with global powers, leveraging partnerships with both Western and Eastern nations to advance their development goals. The BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and strengthened ties with Western nations will both play a role. Regional cooperation, strengthening collective action. Enhanced regional cooperation is essential for addressing shared challenges, such as food security, energy security, and security threats. Conclusion: a continent at a crossroads. The Russia-Ukraine war has thrust Africa into the heart of a global geopolitical storm. The continent's diverse responses and the war's far-reaching consequences underscore the complexity of its position in a rapidly changing world. African leaders must navigate this turbulent landscape with strategic foresight, prioritizing economic resilience, security, and diplomatic agility. The choices they make will shape the continent's future for generations to come. The war serves as a harsh reminder that in an interconnected world, no nation is immune to the ripple effects of global conflict. Africa's ability to forge a path of sustainable development and peace will depend on its capacity to adapt, innovate, and assert its agency in an increasingly uncertain world.